Hi everyone, I hope you're all happy and healthy at home. My name is Sarah Millington and I'm Associate Scientist at IDEXX Laboratories. I'm here today to tell you a little bit about my life and what I do here at IDEXX and how it kind of pertains to some current events in our society. I work for bioprocess in the technical manufacturing department at IDEXX. And what bioprocess is it's a division of biology where we are growing cells and infecting them with viruses, sometimes bacteria, and harvesting the antigen from that. The antigens go into test kits for veterinarians to be able to supply or to test animals in order to understand and get some early detection on what might be going wrong if they're not feeling well. I work in the livestock and poultry department, livestock, poultry, and dairy, and I specialize mostly in chickens and poultry. So what we're going to talk about today is bioprocess and kind of what PPE really means. Working in bioprocess, anytime I do anything with material that I'm working with, I need to be wearing PPE. This PPE is protecting me from the equipment or from the material, but it's also protecting the material from me. If you guys don't know what PPE stands for, it stands for personal protective equipment. And that is things like I'm wearing right now. So a hairnet, safety glasses, gloves, sleeves. These sleeves are protecting the area between my lab coat and my glove. And then sometimes we wear booties over our shoes and face masks over our mouths and nose. For the reasoning of you guys understanding what I'm saying here today, I'm not going to be wearing a face mask, but we do wear them fairly occasionally with what we do. So the reason for why I wear PPE is not just to protect me. Working with viruses and bacteria, of course, I need to protect myself. I also need to work under a biosafety cabinet, which is what's behind me, to help contain my material. But also, I promise the veterinarians that when I'm growing things here, that I am only growing what I say I'm growing. That means that I'm not going to be growing any other foreign bacteria or staph or anything that can be found in the environment in this material. I'm only growing that one virus that I say I'm growing. So in order to do that, I need to protect the material from me. And so by doing that, I wear this PPE, but the PPE is very ineffective unless I practice good practices while I'm wearing it. So to give you an idea of what exactly that means, being a scientist, I did a little experiment for you guys to show you kind of some proper techniques when you're wearing PPE. So my experiment that I did was I went around my lab with my bare hands and I touched a bunch of different things throughout the lab with just my bare hands. And then I took one of our plates that grows bacteria and different contaminations, and I rubbed my finger all over that plate, and then I put it in an incubator. And the second thing I put my gloves on my hands, and I did the same exact thing. I went around and I rubbed my hands all over different things on walls or like a lab bench or an incubator, and then I took my finger and I rubbed it with the glove on one of our plates, and I incubated both of those plates in an incubator, which means I was keeping it warm for 48 hours, so for 2 days. And then I went out and I looked at these plates and I looked to see if there was a difference between the two. So I'm going to show you my two plates now. So the first plate that I'm going to show you is the plate that I used to rub with just my bare hands. On this plate, you'll see many different colonies growing. All these little dots in different shapes are different types of bacteria and staph that are coming from my hands. So bacteria and staph, if you're not too sure what those things mean, you can just think of it as germs. So this plate is covered in germs. But sometimes when on our bare hands, not sometimes, but all the times, we have natural bacteria and natural germs, if you will, that are always growing on our hands. And sometimes those are safe. So this plate has a lot on it, but some of it is safe and some of it is not safe. And we expected to see something like this because this was my bare hands and I didn't wash them. I just touched everything around from different areas that were not necessarily clean. Now, my next plate is the plate that I did with my gloves. And many people, you see them out in the grocery stores or out in public that are wearing gloves, and they wear the same pair of gloves all the time. And they touch all these things, then they touch their face, then they touch more things, and they think they're being safe. This plate was the plate that had my gloves. As you can see, there's not as many small colonies on here, but we have lots of big ones. And really what that is the smaller colonies that were on the other plate are mostly the natural bacteria and staph and germs that aren't necessarily going to hurt us because we always have them on our skin. And they're sometimes good and they fight off the bad ones. But this one here is covered in bad bacteria. The gloves on my hand were protecting the good bacteria and the good germs that were on my hand. So it was causing a barrier so they couldn't get to the plate. And the only thing the gloves were picking up was the bad germs. So those are what is growing on this plate. The moral of the story in this experiment is that if you are wearing gloves out in public, you can still contact all of these different germs and you can still have them on your hands. So when we give advice to like always wash your hands and not touch your face, it goes the same if you're wearing gloves. So when I'm working under the hood with my material, I am always using a disinfectant and spraying it on my hands. I spray it on my hands and then I rub it all over my gloves. And then I go back to working. And every time I take my hands out of the hood, so they're in the air, or I touch something around me, I either change my gloves and get a new pair of gloves, or I spray them down with a cleaner, with a disinfectant. And by doing that, I'm really diminishing or like taking away the chances of things being contacted on my gloves, of these types of things that are growing on my gloves and that can be transmitted onto my face or onto somebody else or into my material that I'm working with. So it's really important that you're not only taking care of yourself when you don't wear your gloves, that you're washing your hands and not touching your face. It's really important that you're doing that, but that also if you are wearing gloves and you are wearing personal protection equipment, that you are also taking care to change your gloves every time you're touching something, or to just take some cleaner and spray your gloves down and wipe them down. As you can see, I'll let you guys look at this one more time. As you can see, things are growing either way. This is the one with just my bare hands, and you can see it still has some of those big blotches of germs in there along with the little ones. So this is really unsafe. This is unwashed hands. And this one is my glove, so it's still very unsafe. We need to make sure that we're always wiping our hands down, using our personal protection equipment the way we're supposed to use it if we want to stay safe. And that is also the way that I use it in my lab to make sure that my material that I'm working with is always safe and ready to pass down to the next step so veterinarians can get the test that they need to have. All right, guys, well, that's all for today, and I hope you enjoyed my video. Please make sure you're staying safe and clean and healthy at home. Cheers, guys. See you later.